Good day! So for today's video, I am going to discuss about poetry. Poetry, it is a type of literature or artistic writing that attempts to stir a reader's imagination or emotions. It is a form of literature that uses stylistic and often rhythmic qualities of language. So there are three types of poetry. First is narrative poetry, second is lyric poetry, and third is dramatic poetry. Narrative poetry tells a story in richly imaginative and rhythmical language. So there are four types of narrative poetry. First is epic. Epic is a long narrative poem divided into distinct parts and episodes bound together by a common relationship to some great hero, action, and time. So there are two kinds of epic. First is folk or popular epic, second is literary epics and classical epics. So the second types of narrative poetry is metrical romance. Metrical romance is a long rambling love story in verse. So the third type of narrative poetry is ballad. Ballad is a short narrative poem intended to be sung. So the last type of narrative poetry is metrical tale. Metrical tale is the poetry that what the short story is to prose. The second type of poetry is lyric poetry. Lyric poetry expresses personal thoughts and feelings. So there are 6 types of lyric poetry. First is ode, second is elegy, third is song, fourth is simple lyric, fifth is sonnet, sixth is verse de society. Ode is a rather extended poem usually complicated in meter and stanza forms and always deals with a serious theme such as immortality. Second is elegy. Elegy is generally a poem of a subjective and meditative nature. Third is song. Song is a short lyric poem intended to be sung. There are 2 types of song. First is circular songs and second is sacred songs. Fourth is simple lyric. Simple lyric is any short poem where the verse is especially musical or where there is a marked subjective or emotional tone. Fifth is sonnet. Sonnet is a lyric poem distinguished by its exact form, 14 iambic pentameter lines. So there are 2 types of sonnet. The Italian sonnet and Shakespearean sonnet or iambic pentameter. So sixth is verse de society. Verse de society is light where verse or occasional and complementary verses which deal in a witty and polished fashion with subjects that on the surface at least are not very serious. The last type of poetry is dramatic poetry. Dramatic poetry portrays life and character through action in powerful, emotion-packed lines such as those in Shakespeare's plays. So there are 3 types of dramatic poetry. First is poetic play, second is masque, and third is dramatic monologue. Poetic play is a drama written significantly in verse to be performed by an actor before an audience. So there are 5 types of poetic play. First is comedy, second is tragedy, third is farce, fourth is historical play, and fifth is melodrama. The second type of dramatic poetry is masque. Masque is a form of court pageantry that flourished in England in the 16th century and not revived later. So the last type of dramatic poetry is dramatic monologue. Dramatic monologue is a poem in which one character speaks throughout but the presence, action, and even the words of other characters are implied. So those are the types of poetry. And that's all. Thank you for watching. God bless.